Sonic just turned 30, and what better place to start than with the original? It's often compared to its successors, and for good reason, but we'll get to those soon enough. Sonic the Hedgehog is still as fun as it ever was, offering tight platforming mixed with speed sections. It's not all about going fast, and if you don't learn the ins and outs of how Sonic controls, then you're going to be in for a tough time. In the original Mega Drive or Sega Genesis version, you're not graced with the spin dash, but later versions add it in. And the Switch version even includes the Sonic Mania drop dash. In my opinion, this can make the game way easier since it wasn't designed with these mechanics in mind originally. The game offers 6 beautifully well-designed zones, with a 7th serving as the final boss. There are 3 acts, which was trimmed down in later games. I used to like the 3-act structure, but now I just think that the levels can sort of sometimes overstay their welcome. The levels themselves have their own unique themes, which is one thing I love about them, and it's one thing I love about early Sonic games in general. The levels definitely get harder though the further you go. It's crazy to me that they wanted to put Labyrinth Zone right after Green Hill originally. What were they thinking? It's a pretty tough level in my opinion, but Starlight Zone and Scrap Brain aren't slouches either. The special stages are a lot of fun too, but again, these can be tricky since controlling them is anything but simple. I'm still not sure how the spinning of these stages works after all of these years. Only 6 emeralds to get though, so if you get them, you get the good ending. Can't forget to mention the music too, of course. It's awesome stuff, with my favorite track being Starlight Zone, but you can't go wrong with any of them. Overall, it's a lot of fun and I highly recommend it even now. I recommend the mobile versions or the Sega Ages Switch version. They each have their perks, but they're easy ways to get as close to the original Sonic experience as possible. Sonic the Hedgehog, an eternal classic. Sonic 2 is arguably the most popular game in the franchise. I think everybody knows about this game, to be honest. Take everything good about the first game, great physics, controls, awesome level design, majestic music, and literally double it. It really is as good as the praise it gets. An immediate improvement over the first game is the bigger levels, which most of them have a few different paths for you to pick from. The enemies are your standard Sonic bad guys, and if you just run through the game and you don't care about points or whatever, they won't pose too much of a threat to you, unless you have no rings. Chaos Emeralds make a reappearance, and now there's 7 of them. If you can get through these especially challenging special stages, and by the way, don't even bother doing it with Sonic and Tails together because you'll just never finish, you'll be blessed with Super Sonic. The thing is, he does make the game very easy, especially in the earlier levels if you can manage to get them all by then. But that said, be careful, especially when you use them in the later levels. You'll be either too fast, or when you run out of rings, it's going to do you more harm than good. This especially goes for Sky Chase, which you'll be flying all over the place, so it's better just to keep it at regular Sonic. Unfortunately, one of the negatives about the original release of the game is you can't undo your super and you'll automatically transform if you have all Chaos Emeralds. And as already mentioned, you can get Tails in this game too. And it's not actually the first game he was in, but it is the first time you could play as him. To be honest, he's just about the same as Sonic, so there's not much to say really. He does lack his flying ability in later games, and he can't go super, so I guess if you want a kind of a little bit of an easier mode, you can get the Emeralds and not have to worry about being too fast, then go for Tails. That said, if you manage to fight your way through this gauntlet of a game, you'll be tasked with taking down Eggman in easily one of the hardest bosses in the entire series. Seriously, the final boss is nothing short of very, very difficult. The other bosses in the game are pretty standard fare though. They can be tough, but I think if you know their patterns, you can beat them kind of easily. It really is a blast going through various levels in this game though, some of the themes being mainstays like Casino Night or the Death Egg, and some kind of ones that you don't see too much, like Oil Ocean for example. On a personal note, I love Aquatic Ruins so much. It's got this nice mix of water and land sections that's just so comfy to me for some reason, and these alternative paths that I mentioned are clearly defined. For the most part, you want to stay above water. One of the things that also seems clear to me, and that's a big difference from the first one, is the difficulty. I'm not saying Sonic 1 wasn't hard, it can be a little tough, especially if you're new to the genre, but this game is much harder than Sonic 1, especially when you're trying to get the emeralds. Those seemingly harmless enemies I mentioned earlier, they become lethal assassins when you're trying to get 50 rings and scour the level for these checkpoints that are just placed in all sorts of inappropriate spots. Especially this monkey here, who instantly becomes John Wick when you get close to him. Combined with about twice as many levels as the first one, I would say this is one of the more challenging Sonic games in general. It's not easy. But at the end of the day, I think it's a fantastic game, and it blends the great level design, music, controls, and difficulty together in such a way that it gives you one of the best Sonic experiences around. And thankfully it's available on just about everything, but I do recommend the mobile version or the Switch version. They have their own special features that set them apart, but they're both great. Either way, it's Sonic the Hedgehog 2, one of the rare times a sequel outdoes the original. If you stick Sonic CD next to the other three mainline Sonic games, it sticks out, and for good reason. It was developed at the same time as Sonic 2, but it came out between 2 and 3. So it might feel weird playing it and thinking of it as a sequel to 2, when really it's a sequel to the first game. It's a game that divides opinions, but it's one I really enjoy. To me, the gameplay is great, the levels are fun and colorful, the soundtrack is just out of this world, both of them. And it really represents a time when Sega was willing to take risks with the character that would pay off. Now just a heads up, I'm talking about the Christian Whitehead version of the game, since the original Mega CD version is extremely uncommon nowadays, unless you're a diehard fan. This 2011 version has tons of quality of life improvements and is widely available. As I mentioned, the game does really feel like it's a big expansion of the first game, but that's not a bad thing. It has multiple paths and large levels with the ability to travel through time. To be fair, if you get the time stones, which act as the Chaos Emerald equivalent in this game, you won't really need to travel that much. But for me, I love to do it because it mixes the gameplay up. Trying to get the good features in each zone, which can be done by getting the 7 time stones or going to the past to destroy the robots, is a challenging endeavor. There are certainly some unique choices for level design in this game, and the levels are quite big, but from things like the spring placements, the ramps, etc., feels familiar yet different at the same time. The artwork is absolutely phenomenal though, and the bright colors and atmosphere act as wonderful eye candy throughout your adventure. Originally, Sonic had a different spin dash which could be swapped out for the Sonic 2 version in the 2011 release. You also have the Super Peel Out, which is pure speed but leaves you vulnerable. Tails is available in this version too, but he breaks the game pretty easily with his flying. The special stages are my favorite in the entire series actually. You're pushed forward on a plane trying to destroy all of the UFOs to get the time stone in each stage. The backgrounds range from beautiful works to these trippy things. Even if you might not like them, they're certainly unique. I'd say one of the weaker points about this game is how easy the boss fights are. They're very unique and I really like how they're done, but sometimes it's just a little bit too easy. Sonic CD may face stiff competition from the other Sonic games, seeing as it lacks the amount of levels and other features that the later games have. But I think that the time travel mechanic is fantastic and it really adds a distinct flavor to the game not found anywhere else in the series. It introduced series mainstays Amy and Metal Sonic as well. There's a lot of good stuff here. Sonic CD, no longer only on CDs. Thank goodness. Sonic the Hedgehog 3 is an interesting game. Broken in two because of time and space constraints, at first look it can seem less impressive than its predecessor. We know the truth now, but back then it was a different story. Who knew Sonic and Knuckles was coming? But we'll talk about that game next time. Sonic 3 does to Sonic 2 what Sonic 2 did to Sonic 1 in just about every department. I'm talking save files, more moves, items, new special stages, and this guy. Sure, on the surface it might look like less. There's only 6 levels after all. Except these levels are huge. It feels like here is where they really started to nail the Sonic formula. I think it strikes a good balance between being too difficult and being too easy. I mentioned how Sonic 2 was really difficult in certain places, especially towards the end of the game. As I mentioned, I think Sonic 3 is much more generous, and you won't find yourself trapped by rising lava or these unfair pitfalls. But levels like Launch Base are pretty tough in their own right. Sonic acts as expected, but this time he's got an extra move in his arsenal. Tails can finally fly, and it actually lets you get to places Sonic normally can't go. Sure, it might be game-breaking sometimes, but Tails acting as an easy mode is a good way for players to get used to the game. I mentioned a handful of what was introduced to this game, but there's so much more we can't get to it today. Mini-bosses come in, and these are a perfect way to break up the stages and give you a bit of a challenge before taking on Eggman as usual. The gimmicks in each level are more pronounced than before, and it's the first time you'll see Sonic snowboarding down a hill, for example. You'll also be using spinning tops, balloons, amongst other things. The Sonic 2 special stages have been replaced with blue spheres. In my opinion, these are much fairer than before, and while they can also be tricky, a little bit of memorizing will help you and it's not so bad. Oh yeah, Super Sonic is back too, and yep, still as powerful as ever, but just you wait. The big elephant in the room when it comes to this game is the music. There's a million different stories about MJ and the people he worked with working on this game, but at the end of the day, it's probably what caused so many problems with releases as of late. But you know, besides that, this was also the first game Jun Senoue did Sonic music for, and he would later go on to become a legend within the series. Sonic the Hedgehog 3 is a really special game. It's hard for me to rate it. It was released separately, but it was intended to be released as one game with Sonic and Knuckles. But Sonic 3 is a great game if you do decide to play it by itself. Sonic the Hedgehog 3, it's still a blast. The nice thing about Sonic and Knuckles, besides the insane amount of memes that it has generated over the past couple of years, is that it's identical to Sonic 3 in terms of gameplay. I already mentioned the changes from 2 to 3, and those apply here save for the, well, save system, at least when it's by itself. To put the games together, you would lock on the original Sonic and Knuckles cart with Sonic 3, and then on your screen popped up arguably the best Sonic game in existence. Apart, these two games are a lot of fun. Together, they are nearly unstoppable. You have 3 playable characters, plus Sonic and Tails together, up to 14 levels with Sonic, 13 with Tails, and 12 with Knuckles. A boppin' soundtrack that had some of the songs removed and changed, but not all of them, and so on and so on. A cool thing is Knuckles' story takes place after Sonic's as he traverses the same levels. He'll have different paths though, so some of the levels are completely different, like Angel Island Act 2 for example. The Sonic 3 levels are great, but in my opinion the Sonic and Knuckles half is much stronger, and there isn't a single level I dislike. Even Sandopolis Act 2. Sonic and Knuckles by itself will have Sonic or Knuckles hunting down the Chaos Emeralds and then you get your super forms, but locked on, you'll have the chance to run through the second half of the game gunning for the Super Emeralds. Get all of these and you'll be granted the ultimate powers of Hyper Sonic, Hyper Knuckles, or for the first time, Super Tails. Who might as well be Hyper Tails since he's ultra strong and he has super birds around him. It's total overkill, but after going through all the trouble, it's just the best feeling in the world. If you're Sonic and you get the Emeralds, you'll have one final showdown with Dr. Eggman in space, and it is epic. It's a pretty challenging level, but it's a great way to top off the game. That gnarly lock-on tech lets you combine Sonic and Knuckles with Sonic 2 as well, granting you Knuckles as a playable character in that game. Most re-releases now just let you pick Knuckles from the get-go though. Now we do have Knuckles in Sonic 1 thanks to Christian Whitehead, but before we just had blue spheres, we couldn't actually get him in the game properly. Blue spheres is a lot of fun though, unless you didn't like the special stages, then it won't be any fun. As of recording, the best way to play Sonic 3 and Knuckles is on Steam and then using Sonic Air. The new best way to play might just be in the new Sonic Origins collection, which still doesn't have a release date as of now. Sonic 3 and Knuckles is epic in every sense of the word, and not only are these levels epic, the speed is epic, the hyperforms, the crazy boss fights in outer space being epic, just everything is awesome. I highly recommend it, seeing as it's probably the best of the 2D Sonic games. It's Sonic the Hedgehog 3. And Knuckles. Sonic the Hedgehog blazed onto the Sega Mega Drive in 1991, but you'd be remiss not to also have a look at his 8-bit adventures on Sega Master System and Game Gear. While the 16-bit versions might be superior in terms of graphics and sound, don't overlook this one, because the 8-bit versions are a lot of fun as well. You have a full Sonic adventure in 8 bits, and it's really impressive what they managed to do given the hardware constraints. Released in 1991, the same year as the Genesis original, this game is unique, having 2 versions with some differences between them. Essentially, you're getting the same package. The gameplay is surprisingly smooth, if not slippery at times. Sonic is known for his speed, and you'll get some of that here in Green Hill, but the game shifts to a more platforming focus in later levels. You pick up rings as usual, but be careful. If you get hit, you can't pick the rings back up. Not surprising, but standard badniks are littered throughout the levels. You have Green Hill, Labyrinth, and Scrap Brain from the Genesis game, but unique to this one are Bridge, Jungle, and Skybase. The levels are a good length, never too long or too short. The shared levels are almost completely different too, and they feature different layouts. Special stages are different too, and they act as a way to get more lives or continues, as Chaos Emeralds are found within each stage instead. They might appear simple to obtain, sure, but it's gonna get harder as the game goes on. There are a lot of gimmicks in here that you won't find in the 16-bit versions, and I think that's one of the game's strong points. You'll be writing logs, teleporting, and so on. They were really ahead of their time doing stuff like this. And of course, like every Sonic game ever, the music is fantastic and really catchy. Besides Green Hill, it's all brand new. The game director would go on and do the music for Streets of Rage, so of course we expected musical excellence. The 3-act structure remains, but for the most part the 3rd act is a boss fight with Eggman. These can be tough because you don't get any rings. But to be fair, some of the bosses can be cheesed if you know the patterns and you have a good grasp of the controls. The final boss can be pretty tough though, and I think it's actually harder than the 16-bit version. As you progress through South Island, your adventure will ramp up in the difficulty department. A level like Jungle Act 2 will have you dying more than once, twice, or even 3 times. And of course, just like the Genesis version, Labyrinth is as unforgiving as ever. The 8-bit version of Sonic the Hedgehog might just surprise you. Sure, it lacks a few things that the original 16-bit version has, but it more than makes up for it with its fun and challenging gameplay. I loved playing the Master System version, but as of now, the Game Gear one is probably the easiest to obtain. Here's to hoping Sega gives some more love to this game down the road. Sonic the Hedgehog on Game Gear and Master System. Half the bits, but just as much fun. With the success of the first Sonic game, a sequel only made sense for the 16-bit version and the 8-bit version. Sonic the Hedgehog 2 comes in as the first official appearance of longtime Sonic ally and best friend, Miles Tails Prower. You'll see pictures of him all over the game, but he's unplayable here actually. The intro acts as a cutscene to let us know that Tails has been kidnapped by Eggman, so it's up to Sonic to save him. How does this game compare to the first one though? Well, the good news is, the game has everything you'd expect from Sonic and more. Sonic is tasked with going through 7 zones, with the final one being a secret only unlockable after getting the 6 Chaos Emerald. Similar to the first game, the gems are found in each level, in particular the 2nd act. This time they are really not easy to get, and you're gonna have to go out of your way to try to find them. Something that this game did first was actually having these multiple pathways for you to choose from. The levels feel quite expansive in this regard. The top route is much faster and the bottom one slows you down. One big problem I have with this game is the difficulty spikes. In my experience, the first game felt like an upward trajectory, getting harder and harder and harder as it went on. Here, levels seem to be very easy, then very hard, then very easy again. You might beat a level in 30 seconds, and then get stuck on a boss and keep dying for almost 30 minutes. The difficulty is further affected depending on which version you play. There's a Game Gear and a Master System version just like the first one, and the bosses are pretty unforgiving on the Game Gear one. While on the Master System, they don't really pose much of a threat. Going back to the levels for a second, we're blessed with all originals this time around. Sonic 2 takes the unique gimmicks from 1 and turns it up to 100. I think it really helps freshen up the gameplay. the most unique of these being the parasite. It does take a few tries to get used to it though. Speaking of controls, Sonic feels different here than he did in the first game. I'm not sure if it's just me, but he feels a bit slower, or at least the speed cap feels more apparent. He's not as slippery as the first game, but in a way he feels a bit more stiff sometimes, making him a little bit hard to control. If you come in fresh, you're gonna be fine, no problems. But if you're coming from the first one, then you're gonna have some adjusting to do. Your experiences may vary along the way, but if you manage to clear the game, you'll defeat Silver Sonic, but then Tails will, That said, if you collect those emeralds, you win and you get the good ending. I think Sonic the Hedgehog 2 is a really solid outing, no matter if you play it on the Game Gear or the Master System. The levels are unique, gimmicks are fun, controls are pretty good for the most part, and while the difficulty spikes can be really frustrating, it's still very well put together, there's no denying that. I did enjoy the first one more, but that's in no way putting this one down. This game was highly praised at the time, and I can see why. Sonic the Hedgehog 2, 2 for 2 in 8-bit. Sonic Chaos comes hot off the heels of 2 successful 8-bit Sonic games. Is the third time the charm, or is it about time Sonic ran out of steam? The foundations of the previous games are present, but Sonic Chaos, known as Sonic and Tails in Japan, is where the 8-bit games continue to make a name for themselves. Sonic 2 is a huge step, and Sonic Chaos further leaps forward with all new gimmicks, power-ups, and zones. This time we get Sonic and Tails present, with both having spin dashes finally. Sonic also has his super peel out from Sonic CD, and Tails can fly. Unfortunately, it's not the most intuitive way to activate it, and you'll have to halt the high speed action to use it. And thankfully this game has enough high speed action to keep you entertained. You'll be running all over the place trying to make it to the end of each zone as fast as you can. It feels closer to the Mega Drive games in terms of design, but the levels can be beaten pretty quickly, similar to Sonic 2. Also, like Sonic 2, you'll fight unique bosses until you get to the end, where you'll have a showdown with Eggman to top it off. The thing is though, some of the bosses can seem really hard and others can seem really easy. One thing is, I don't think the characters control quite as well as they do in the first 2 games. Things like the spin attack can be wonky at times, so I avoid using it if I can. Of course, the physics aren't as smooth either, but that's okay. Like Sonic 2, Sonic Chaos features all unique zones for you to traverse. You have your familiar themes here, but in terms of graphics, everything looks much better, from the individual sprites to the backgrounds. Minor point, Sonic got his haircut way too short for this game. Tails looks fine though. This time around, you're seeing footage from the Game Gear version, but there is a Master System version as well. There are quite a few differences between them, like certain level layouts, and this even extends to the Japanese Game Gear version too. The music is also different, with the Game Gear version boasting superior tunes this time around. It might be a bit hard to notice it at first, but if you listen to them back to back, you'll definitely hear it. Another staple of the 8-bit titles is using gimmicks and levels. Here you'll have a lot of fun ones like the spring shoes, rocket shoes, just to name a few. These are a lot of fun to play around with, but it's a bit of a bummer that only Sonic can use them. You'll even get to use them in the special stage levels. The same rules apply here as always, get the emeralds to get the good ending. However, the way of entering the special stages here is different than anything before, and after I think. You need to collect 100 rings in a level and you'll be transported to a special stage. If you clear it, the level automatically ends and you move on to the next level. It's a lot of fun and it adds an exploration element to the game. You have to decide, either run through fast, or try and find all those rings. Some of the stages are really hard though, since they're timed and you might not be able to make it through given the maze-like nature. You'll find yourself trying again and again, which can be frustrating. Overall, Sonic Chaos is a really solid game, just like the ones before it. I think it's the game that most people think of when they think 8-bit Sonic. Here the games began to really take on their own identity, not so much weighed down with the comparisons or confusions when stacking them up against the Mega Drive ones. The controls are okay, but it is great to have all those techniques, even if it's not quite as smooth as previous games. It's good, so give it a shot if you can. Sonic Chaos, low on chaos, but plenty of fun. Sonic Triple Trouble follows Sonic Chaos and is the next sequel in the 8-bit line of Sonic games. Does it break new ground, or is it more of the same? You'll see off the bat that Triple Trouble looks a lot like Sonic Chaos, and this makes sense. Chaos is where the games carved an identity for themselves after being given the blueprints from Sonic 2. Triple Trouble doesn't take a massive leap forward, but it still makes enough strides to make the game fun. Sonic and Tails are back, apt as the game is known as Sonic and Tails 2 in Japan, and they're more or less the same as the previous title. Sonic is still at full power with all of his abilities. Tails can fly slightly better this time around, although it's still kind of annoying to stop and do it. Some of the jankiness from the previous title is present here, and that can be a bit of a pain. At least Tails can get into special stages now. Finally, he's less of a second-class character now. In this game we have Knuckles making his 8-bit debut, Fang the Sniper making his series debut, and Eggman of course, all trying to take down Sonic. In addition to that, you even have Metal Sonic show up too. This is like Sonic Forces, but done right. Anyways, Knuckles doesn't do much to be fair outside of his boss fight and the inter-level cutscenes. Metal Sonic shows up for a brief battle at the end before your final confrontation with Eggman. In each level you'll fight a mech that Eggman has cooked up, and they can be a bit challenging, although not as hard as previous games. Fang shows up in the special stages, which are now accessed by getting 50 rings and finding these emerald monitors. Jump through the sparkling hoop and you're in. There's 5 emeralds to get, and Fang will try and stand in your way most of the time. Beat him and the gems are yours. There's actually 2 types of stages this time, 2D and 3D, and I definitely prefer the 3D ones. Flying in the plane is just so much more fun than these 2D maze stages where you have a stricter time limit, and it can just be so frustrating if you don't know the layouts. Like this first one for example, these springs are so obnoxious. The gameplay is more or less in line with what you'd expect from a Sonic game, controls decently enough, and features unique gimmicks. That said, there are a few returning ones from Sonic Chaos with a couple extras added, like the propeller, snowboard, or Sea Fox. The gimmicks are a lot of fun of course, but there is that sense of repetition in there, seeing as how some of these come from previous games. Even design choices like the high-speed tubes come back, but for me personally, it just feels a bit tired after 3 go-rounds. The levels themselves do look pretty good, and they feature mostly unique themes. One thing that does feel a bit weaker to me overall is the music. I'm not saying it isn't good, because of course it is, it's a Sonic game after all, but to me it just doesn't seem to have really memorable tunes like the other games did. I don't know, what do you think? Sonic Triple Trouble feels a bit like a send-off in a way. It takes so many ideas from the previous games and adds a bit more to it. It might feel a bit unfresh in this regard, but if anything I think it's a good celebration of the 8-bit titles. To me, it doesn't quite play as well as Sonic 1 or Sonic 2 in terms of momentum, but it's solid overall just like the others. And Sonic fan or not, it's worth checking out if you can get your hands on it. Nowadays it's available on the 3DS for a pretty good price. Sonic Triple Trouble. It's not groundbreaking, but it's a good time.
Sonic Labyrinth is the most antithetical Sonic game ever made. You take everything he's known for, speed and platforming, and replace it with a frustrating lack of speed and hardly any platforming. Sounds like a recipe for disaster, doesn't it? To be fair, the ideas found in the game sound great in theory, but when you actually get a chance to sit down with it, it's not what you expect from Sonic. The story goes that Sonic accidentally found himself wearing a pair of Eggman's slow-down shoes. Now he literally can't go fast and he can't jump. He can spin dash though, which is great news, but in execution, it's not exactly great. You move on an isometric plane, so when you spin dash in an attempt to speed up, you will be forced to go in a straight line. You will have to learn to utilize it properly, and since there isn't much room to work with, you'll be bouncing all over the place. Or just halt your speed as soon as you take off. So stopping and starting might just be the best way to move around. The levels are timed, and you have to get 3 keys to advance. There's no rings unless it's a boss level. If you get hit, you lose time. If you pick up a key, item, or kill enemies, it'll give you time. It's a unique spin to the Sonic formula, I'll give it that. The boss levels might seem a bit tricky at first, but they're pretty easy overall. The lead up to the boss is a high-speed ramp, and this is definitely the fastest the game gets. It's a fun little chance to get an extra life or two. This is a puzzle game at its core, and in that regard, it works. I do think there are your fair share of difficulty spikes, especially towards the end, but without a doubt, the last level is the hardest one, just in terms of how the warping doors work. I do appreciate the gimmicks each world brings though, and it does spice things up. The music is pretty good too, can't forget about that. There aren't a lot of unique tracks, but what is here is really catchy and it fits the mood really well. It feels Sonic-esque, but also different enough at the same time. Sonic Labyrinth is misunderstood. Yes, if you go in expecting a high-speed Sonic title, you'll be sorely disappointed. That said, if you want a decent, fun puzzle platformer, look no further. Sure, it's got its quirks, and with some tweaks, it could be vastly improved, especially in terms of control. But I think it isn't so bad the way it is. It's good enough to be on the 3DS Virtual Console after all. And this is the best version to play. It'll help you avoid the seizure-inducing flashes of the original game. Sonic Labyrinth, good ideas, decent execution.
Sonic Blast, known as G-Sonic in Japan, is certainly unique. Just at first glance, you'll be taken aback by how it looks graphically compared to the other 8-bit Sonic games, or even the 16-bit ones, but does that make it any good? Sonic Blast gives you the option of playing either Sonic or Knuckles. They both can spin dash, with Sonic having a double jump and Knuckles having his gliding climbing abilities he's known for. Picking either one doesn't matter too much as the gameplay is about the same. The goal here is stopping Eggman from picking up 5 Chaos Emerald shards, standard stuff. The emeralds this time are found in giant rings, hidden in each second act, whereas if you find a ring in the first act, it'll just give you a 1-up. In the game, there's only 5 stages, 3 acts per usual in the 8-bit titles, with the final boss Tamagotchi-like thing appearing if you get all the emeralds. The bosses themselves aren't too tough, except for the last one, which is really difficult. At least they give you 99 rings to go at him, because he might just be impossible otherwise. So to be frank, the characters control very stiffly. It'll take Sonic and Knuckles a second to pick up speed, and it's okay when they get going, but the problem is, you have a small resolution and you're gonna find yourself bumping into badniks if you're not careful. Going up loops is a total nightmare, and I would get stuck before even taking off. Spin dashing works fine, at least, but again, your momentum is instantly taken away as soon as you try to go off a cliff or an edge. The levels here are varied, and even if they might sound familiar, like Green Hill, they look quite different. Speaking of different, Sonic and Knuckles are done in a pseudo 3D style, similar to Donkey Kong Country for the Super Nintendo, and it's certainly a technical marvel for an 8-bit system, and it looks good for the most part. The levels are pretty fun, and they feature very basic gimmicks. Sadly, you won't come across unique power-ups or anything like that in this game, and in terms of challenge, the levels do get progressively harder as the game goes on, especially in Blue Marine, which is by far the hardest level in the game. And of course, like all the other Aspect titles, it features tubes because why not? I've just come to accept it at this point. The special stages in the game look similar to Blue Spheres from a visual perspective, but it plays more like Sonic 2, where you have to get a certain amount of rings within a time limit. It's not the hardest thing in the world, but the perspective can make it difficult to tell exactly where a ring is going to be, and distinguishing up in the air from on the ground can be difficult. There's only 5 to get though, so it's not too bad. I gotta say, I do like the music in this game though. It's really catchy, and it definitely alleviates the pain of mediocre controls, but again, it's a shame there's only 5 levels. Sonic Blast is interesting if nothing else. They tried something new in the graphical department and should be complimented there, but they had to give up unique gimmicks and gameplay for something pretty basic in general. I had fun with it even though Blue Marine is pure evil, but I'm not sure I'd recommend it to people outside of really diehard Sonic fans. That said, I thought it was going to be much worse given its reputation, so I was pleasantly surprised. But if you want to try it out, it's on the 3DS eShop. Sonic Blast isn't quite a blast per se, but it's not so bad. Sonic 3D Blast, developed by Traveler's Tales, came out in 1996 and has garnered a mixed opinion from fans of the franchise and certainly critics of the franchise as well. While some say it's one of the worst Sonic games ever, that's just simply not true and there's a lot to like here. But to be fair, there are a lot of things to criticize too. Sonic 3D Blast was developed with the Genesis in mind, but Traveler's Tales was also commissioned to do a Saturn version as well. There are a few differences like the graphics and sound effects, but it largely plays the same. At first glance, looking similar to Sonic Labyrinth, Sonic 3D Blast, or Sonic 3D Flicky's Island as it's known outside of the US, is played on an isometric plane. It's not actual 3D, but it tries to be to varying degrees of effectiveness. I can't say I'm the biggest fan of how Sonic moves here. If you have a 3D stick, it might alleviate a bit of the jankiness, but you'll find yourself sometimes going all over the place, bouncing off of things, or trying to fix your momentum at a moment's notice. You do get used to it as the game progresses, but I would say that that's the biggest flaw. The story is rather simple, as always, and Sonic has to go out and rescue his friendly Flickies, these birds that are trapped in the robots hidden throughout the level. You rescue 5 and this will let you either move on to the next part of the level or the next stage. The idea is neat on paper, but honestly I think they could have made this game without the Flickies having to follow you to the ring and it would have been a lot better. There are plenty of stages here too and that's a real treat. It's a pretty full game, especially for a Sega Genesis title. You'll traverse a variety of environments and while they're familiar themes, they'll still be a joy to look at, especially on the Sega Saturn. You only play as Sonic this time around, but you can spot Tails or Knuckles in the level and they'll take you to a special stage. Same rules as always apply. Get the emeralds, get the good ending. No Super Sonic though. I like the Genesis stages since they're very simple to play and they're a lot of fun, but the Saturn version, it's probably the best Sonic special stage I've ever played. This half-pipe ramp has been done to death, but here it was done the best in my opinion. The 16-bit version and the Saturn version do feature different soundtracks, but they're both amazing and they're a total joy to listen to. Some of my favorite tracks from the series are found here. And of course I cannot finish up without mentioning the director's cut either. This touch-up of the game was released by the Genesis programmer John Burton and it adds a wealth of improvements like a password system, tweaks to Sonic's speed, additional collectibles, and even Super Sonic. I say this is the version to play without a doubt. Even though the Sega Saturn version has better sound effects, visuals, and special stages, the improvements found in the director's cut outweigh the benefits of the Saturn version. You can get the game on Steam and then download the mod, it's really simple. Sonic 3D Blast isn't as bad as you might think. It has some things going against it, like the controls, but I think if you stick around and get used to them, it's one Sonic adventure worth having.
Sonic's first technical 3D debut is here with Sonic the Fighters. This arcade original was finally ported after 9 years to Sonic Gems Collection, and then in 2012 to PS3 and Xbox 360. It's a one-of-a-kind game, but how does it hold up? The roster consists of Sonic mainstays, Sonic of course, Tails, Knuckles, Amy, Chaotix regular Espio, Game Gear superstar Fang the Sniper, human-turned-animal Honey the Cat, and 2 new characters, Bark the Polar Bear and Bean the Dynamite. The characters are rounded out rather well, although in an age of 50+ character rosters, it may seem a bit sparse nowadays. The story is actually amazing. You have to fight each of the cast in reverse order to get their Chaos Emeralds, so you can get a chance to use Tails' spaceship to have your final showdown with Metal Sonic and Dr. Eggman. Instead of Tails being nice and creating the ship any other way, he chose violence. It makes no sense, but that just adds to the zaniness and wackiness of the game. Best to switch off and not take it seriously. The fighting system itself is easy to understand at first, but like any fighting game, it takes a minute to get certain combos down and learn the moves in depth. A lot of inputs will be similar, which can assist beginners. The shield mechanics are interesting, and so is the fact that you could jump around on this 3D plane. It's definitely not the most finely tuned fighting game, but I don't think it's trying to be. One thing to be aware of is that it's difficult. Even if you play on easy, unless you master the art of spamming moves, then you'll get wrecked pretty quickly. That said, if that's all you do, then the novelty will run out quickly. The spike gets insane, especially towards the end. Fighting Metal Sonic is tough. I couldn't imagine making it here on the hardest difficulty. If you're Sonic, don't lose until the second round when you face him. That way you'll be able to activate Super Sonic and just unload. It's a neat reward for all that suffering. What about the music? Come on, haven't you gotten the idea by now? In all seriousness though, I like it a lot for its funky flair. The sound protrudes 90s attitude in a way, totally fitting of Sonic himself. Put it on, get hyped, and try to fight your best friends you're supposed to save the world with, together. Nothing like friendly competition. Jokes aside, if you're not into fighting games, you won't enjoy this. If you're a Sonic fan, it's certainly fun to sink your teeth into and try out. There's not really another Sonic game like this, even when you take into account Sonic Battle. It'll be a challenge, even on lower difficulty settings, so be warned. If you're curious, go all out. But if you're on the fence, then maybe it might be best to look elsewhere. Sonic R isn't the first Sonic racing game, but it's certainly one of the more unique ones. In fact, out of any racing game, it's unique. That said, unique doesn't exactly mean amazing. Sonic R starts you off with Sonic, Tails, Knuckles, and Amy. You have a chance to unlock Eggman later on, along with 4 other characters. To be fair, they're just clones of Sonic, Tails, Knuckles, and Eggman essentially. But hey, we all love Metal Sonic, Metal Knuckles, and that thing. If it wasn't for the memes, I think we'd have forgotten it by now. There's only 5 stages, and one of them is unlockable. It would have been nice to maybe have one more stage or two. It makes you wanting a bit more, especially since the stages themselves look nice. So it's best to keep expectations in check. The standout of this game, aside from it being a 3D Sonic game from an earlier era, is the music. Now, I'm not sure if it's just the memes that made this game popular or not, but be that as it may, you have slamming tracks in each level. There's not one bad vocal track in this game. The menu themes are laid back, but you'll find yourself bopping along no doubt. Super Sonic Racing, Can You Feel the Sunshine, and my favorite city propaganda piece. Get the OST ASAP. You have a few modes to play, and here's where the replayability comes into play. You could play Grand Prix, get the Chaos Emeralds and Sonic Coins to unlock the characters, but you also have a few types of time attack modes and a multiplayer mode too. A lot of the fun comes from playing with your friends, but these extra modes are a refreshing take, like having to tag the other racers for example. So, how does it play? Well, it's hard to get used to, and that's putting it nicely. Sonic's 3D physics certainly changed between later games, but we have an early outing here, so it might make sense if it's a bit rough. However, I do think there's a big learning curve since the characters are usually hard to control and slippery, so you'll find yourself bouncing around. Track memorization is crucial here, because when you start the game and you're not familiar with the controls and the layouts, it's like a double whammy. There's a stiffness yet slipperiness to it all, if that makes sense. This can make getting things like the Sonic Coins or even the Chaos Emeralds difficult. The game encourages exploration, and I love the idea of it, but you're gonna have to explore, come back, and then plan a route so you can execute, because getting the Chaos Emeralds and not finishing in first will cause you to lose them. So you have this mix of having to win the race and also go out and finding things, which can be tough because the CPUs aren't slouches. There's quite a few ways to play this game, from the Sega Saturn, GameCube, and PS2 to PC ports. I recommend the PC version modded since it's basically the definitive version. You can get all the best Saturn and PC features in one, such as changing backgrounds and transparency effects. It's pretty neat. If you're into Sonic and racing games, you'll have fun with this. It's tough, because it's a 3D Sonic game. I think fans will have an idea of how he controls, so when you use him and his friends here, it's going to be a bit jarring. The extra features are a real treat, and cheesing with Super Sonic is awesome, but the short length and more importantly awkward controls are what knocks this game down a few notches. Sonic R. On the right track, but misses the mark.
Sonic Pocket Adventure is a unique title, if considering its circumstances alone. It came out in 1999, not on a Sega platform, but on the Neo Geo Pocket Color. And it's pretty good too. What's going on here? Sonic Pocket Adventure can be seen as an early Sonic Mania type game. The level designs are mostly from Sonic 2, whereas the music is mostly from Sonic 3. That said, the layouts have been changed completely, so even if you're familiar with those levels, it still presents quite a challenge. It's only Sonic by himself here, a rarity until recently, and honestly, he controls great. I wasn't sure how this would go, but I was pleasantly surprised to get high-speed Sonic action in a game that doesn't look half bad either. Sure, it's not exactly up to par nowadays, but I still think they did a bang-up job. Some of the people who worked here would go on to form DIMPs and make the Sonic Advanced games. I loved the way Sonic controlled in this game too. Everything felt really smooth, and in my opinion, the compromises were kept to a minimum as best as they could have been. The game gets very difficult as you progress. The first couple of levels aren't so bad, but then you'll find yourself dying in all sorts of ways as you go on. The way the layouts are feel like something you wouldn't even see in a normal Sonic game, with enemies being placed right in your path at times, or these crushers killing you as soon as you touch them. Even if you're familiar with Sonic, this will put you through your paces. The layouts aren't the only thing that have changed. There's the boss fights too, and they can be very hard. The first fight isn't so bad, but from the second one onwards, you're gonna have a tough time. The special stages are a total pain too. It's the Sonic 2 half-pipe, of course, but you won't see the rings until you're very close because of the draw distance. And the difficulty just keeps ramping up and ramping up. You only have to get 6, but you can only access each one at the end of each first act. If you mess up, you'll have to replay the level over again. The 7th emerald is won by Eggman at the last boss. If you don't grab it, you're not going to get the Supersonic stage, so try your best. The Supersonic stage itself is also really tough. It looks like Doomsday, but it's different. Something neat here though is you can get collectibles that are scattered around the stages. In particular, there's these puzzle pieces you can pick up. They unlock goodies along the way and it adds an exploration element to the game. Having a save feature is nice and it allows you to go back and play the levels you beat. You can check out everything from the menu. I had a lot of fun playing Sonic Pocket Adventure. It starts off simple, but it gets very tough. But having the ability to select levels from the main menu mitigates the fear of having to start from the beginning. Unfortunately, it's just too hard to get now, and your best bet at playing it is going to be emulation. Sure, it's basically a skimmed version of Sonic 2, but that game's fantastic, and this one's really good too. If you're a Sonic fan, I highly recommend it. Sonic Pocket Adventure, one Sonic game that lives up to its title. Sonic Adventure 2 represents to many the best of the 3D Sonic games, but like the first one, it can also represent the turning point to mediocrity. Which one's the truth? Sonic Adventure 2 has the gang trying to stop Eggman again as he plans to use a space station to take over the world. Sounds in line with his character, and even better, you get to play as Eggman here. On the hero side you have Sonic, Tails, and Knuckles versus the dark side consisting of Shadow, Eggman, and Rouge. This is Shadow and Rouge's first game, and they would go on to become modern staples. The game trims down the gameplay styles from the first one. Sorry, no more fishing, but it does consist of action, shooting, and treasure hunting stages. It's a smart move to streamline the gameplay. That said, I do wish they could have got Tails flying more in this game. I feel like it's criminal to relegate him to a machine the entire time. The Sonic and Shadow stages are some of the best in the entire series, controlling very smoothly and just as tight as Sonic Adventure, if not tighter. Grinding is also introduced here, and it's still done the best in my opinion. It's not just a free pass for you to hold down the B button. The shooting sections definitely slow down the gameplay a bit too much, which is why I would have preferred maybe only Eggman doing them. The treasure hunting stages are a lot of fun too, but you better use the hint monitor since only one emerald shard will beep on your radar for some reason. This is a downgrade from the first one, where you could go out and find them all at once if you wanted to. At the end of a level, you'll get a rank which would continue on in later games. Clear both stores and you'll get the last one, where all sides team up to take on the Bio Lizard. Beat him and you'll get a Super Sonic, Super Shadow exclusive boss, the Final Hazard. Gameplay wise, I enjoyed Perfect Chaos a bit more, but this one is still tough, challenging, and a lot of fun. On the paper, the characters have unique levels exclusive to them, but they're more or less taking place in the same spots, just adjusted to fit the playstyle. Broken down, you have the city stages, Pumpkin Hill-esque stages, military base stages, desert pyramid stages, and space stages, both in and outside of the arc. The levels themselves are pretty good, but I wish they had a bit more variety in locations, to be honest. Sonic Adventure has a similar problem, but Ice Cap feels very different from Red Mountain to Sky Bridge and so on. That said, it is nice that it isn't exactly the same level in some cases, and there are changes to design, time of day, and so on. Just like with Sonic Adventure, do I even have to talk about the music? It has live and learn. Enough said. But to be honest though, I don't like the character themes as much here in this game. The remixes to me just don't sound as good as the original ones in my opinion. The level music is absolutely fantastic though, and even the non-vocal stages are really good too. Like Emerald Coast, do I even have to talk about City Escape? It's one of the best ways to start a game. I can't forget about the Chow Garden, which was nearly perfected in this game, especially the 2-battle version. Stats are clear, easy to understand, and you can get a variety of Chow using rings collected, raise them up with Chaos Drives or animals, and it's just a lot of fun, just to, again, break up the gameplay and just relax from the high-speed action a bit. The 2-player mode from the battle re-releases are amazing fun too. Along with Sonic Adventure, there's just too much to say about Sonic Adventure 2. It's a fantastically well-made game with the best of Sonic's 3D gameplay. Some consider it the best in the series, and while I think it's a toss-up between this and Sonic Adventure, you can't go wrong either way. And unlike Adventure, the ports are actually a decent way to play it, even though they still messed up the lighting in the cutscenes, but it's no big deal. Sonic Adventure 2, still hard to top all these years later. Sonic Adventure and Sonic Adventure 2 set the series on a new path, so it was very Sega of Sonic Team to change the formula up again. What follows is certainly a different concept from what we've seen before and haven't seen since. The gameplay is the unique selling point here, as you'll be playing as 3 characters at the same time. They fulfill the speed, fly, and power roles respectively. There are more characters playable than any other game, with 12 total divided amongst the 4 teams. Team Sonic, Dark, Rose, and Chaotix. Team Sonic and Team Dark are similar, with Rose being for beginners, and Chaotix featuring a different playstyle, usually featuring unique missions. You traverse a variety of levels, and in my opinion, this is where the game shines, going from beautiful ocean fronts, to sky bases, to haunted houses, casinos, and so forth. There's essentially 2 acts to each theme. The variety keeps the game exciting. That said, you're going to have to play through each level with every team. If you're not a beginner to the series, Team Rose is going to feel like it's holding you back. Chaotix is fun to play around with, but the unique missions aren't always so unique, and it turns into more of the same sometimes. To me, Team Sonic and Team Dark is where it really feels like you're enjoying the game to the max. Story isn't the main priority of this game, and it's a very simple one, but it does work. Metal Sonic and his clever ruse is great, although I wish they had his Neo form do something a bit more before turning into Godzilla. Besides the final story, the game has an overall cheerier tone than the adventure games too. It feels like a callback to the original games. That said, I really feel like they could have gone deeper with the story because the setup is actually really good, especially with Metal Sonic. I also love that they decided to bring back the special stages in order to get the Chaos Emeralds. Since they're not an integral part to the plot until the end, they were able to pull this off. That said, there are some problems with the stages I'll talk about later. The music is really solid, so no problems there. I like the non-vocal tracks a lot, but I can't say I remember too much of the vocal themes to be honest, save for the main theme and What I'm Made Of, which is one of the best Sonic songs, hands down. It brings the games back to that adventure feeling, if only just for a few minutes. There are a few issues in terms of controls in this game. Characters themselves move around fine, but they do feel a bit stiff in some situations, like when you're in the special stages and you get caught on the ceiling. It's pretty annoying. For power characters, their lunging move can be a bit annoying too when you're trying to regroup and get everyone to do your attack. And grinding is a bit iffy in this game as well, and it feels too easy and therefore a bit unnecessary. Another issue I have is the level length. This is the game that started the trend of near 10-minute levels for Sonic games. They drag on way too long sometimes, and considering the levels have essentially 2 acts, to me I found myself running out of patience. I'm not advocating for short 2-minute levels at all, but these started a precedent that eventually went out of control. Oh yeah, don't even get me started on Super Tails and Super Knuckles. Sonic Heroes is a really solid game. It helped define modern Sonic as we know him now, for better or for worse. The team gameplay may have some quirks that can test your patience, but overall it brings a unique style to the series that could have been even better if expanded upon and tweaked properly. I feel like with some improvements to controls and maybe level design, this could have been such an amazing game. If you want to go and play it, I recommend getting your hands on the GameCube version. It's the best one apparently and has the least amount of glitches. Sonic Heroes, the calm before the storm. Sonic Advance 3 is, you guessed it, the cap on the trilogy of Sonic Advance games for Game Boy Advance. Building on the previous 2 titles, this time you'll have a partner to tackle 7 levels and enemies abound. Is this just more of the same, or does it offer a fresh experience? Sonic Advance 3 plays how you might expect, and that's fast-paced Sonic action mixed with tricky platforming. No use trying just to hold right in this game, cause it'll get you killed pretty fast. Level memorization is key here, and sometimes it's a downright necessity, since the occasional enemy or spike will throw you off your momentum. Compared to the Genesis games, the characters feel a little bit slippery here. It can be frustrating, especially in a first-time playthrough and when you need to time important jumps on platforms. But you'll be playing these levels over and over since there are 3 Chao hidden in each act. There are 3 acts per level and 10 Chao total, with 1 being found in the overworld map. The Chao exploration is something I really like because it adds that extra bit of replayability to the game. Finding each Chao enables you to find special keys, which leads to the special stages, which leads to the Chaos Emeralds. The special stages themselves are a lot of fun and quite challenging. You're on the tornado too, and you have to collect the rings as you balance yourself on the plane. The story actually is quite interesting this time around, as Eggman literally splits the world into different pieces. And there's a few callbacks to Sonic Battle, which is a nice touch and it adds a bit more emotional weight to the boss battles. There's quite some variety in this game too in terms of levels, and while you'll see some of the Sonic staples here, places like Toy Kingdom are definitely not familiar and they're really well done too. These stages are supplemented with a fantastic soundtrack too, really catchy stuff. I love the advanced games because it's essentially how Sonic would sound on the Super Nintendo. It has a totally different vibe from the Genesis games, and it may feel off if you're a longtime fan, but the tracks are great, and you'll even hear a Green Hill remix in Sunset Hill. Getting back to the partner system, you have 5 characters: Sonic, Tails, Knuckles, Amy, and Cream. It's a lot of fun mixing up the pairs and trying to find out which ones work together best. My go-to is Sonic and Amy, but there's a lot of choices you have here. Using different combinations can help you find different parts of levels that you didn't notice before. Sonic Advance 3 is a lot of fun. It may get some flack for the level design, but I think it was done this way on purpose. It encourages multiple playthroughs and exploration. It adds an interesting gimmick, and it's one I'd like to be seen done again. I'm not sure if it would work in the realm of 3D Sonic, but here in 2D, I think it's just right. It's a pocket-sized Sonic adventure. Sonic Advance 3, a fitting end to a solid trilogy. Sonic styles onto the Nintendo DS with a strong outing in Sonic Rush, introducing Blaze the Cat into the fray, along with the sinister new villain, Eggman, Nega, mixing up the Sonic Advance formula a bit too with plenty of flair. Here, Dimp's stuck to the familiar in 2D gameplay, but does it pay off? With Sonic Rush you have 2 playable characters in Sonic and Blaze. Tails, Knuckles, Cream and Amy make appearances but they aren't playable. Sonic and Blaze do have some differences in their gameplay styles but are more or less the same. The goal is the same as always as well, get to the end of the stage as fast as possible while trying to get an S rank, which isn't easy. There's a new pressure gauge system which lets you boost, which will be essential. You also have the trick system which fills the gauge and you can pull off different combinations coming off of a spring or a ramp. The game does feel really tight, if a little stiff, but I imagine that's to compensate for the boost system. Had the controls felt closer to the advanced games, I think it would have been a bit too slippery and out of control. Another cool feature of this game is the utilization of the dual screens. You'll be running up and down, literally, so you'll have to focus on where you're going next. It gets hectic pretty quickly, but that's what adds to the fun. Towards the end of the game, when you're going upside down between the screens, it can be a bit jarring though, and difficult to control your direction, so you might die a few times. Be warned. The game is a bit more story heavy than previous entries. You have cutscenes and moments of interactions between the characters. Long story short, Blaze comes from her world in order to retrieve her version of the Chaos Emeralds, the Soul Emeralds. She gets them from every boss fight at the end of each zone. Sonic, on the other hand, gets his chance at the Chaos Emeralds the good old-fashioned way. In a special stage, of course. They're a bit more lenient with entry this time around, as you'll get them from these special generators by holding onto them and boosting until you're thrown in. The stages themselves might look like more of the same at first, but you use the DS's stylus to control Sonic on the bottom screen, and this is tougher than it looks, especially not being able to jump on command. It's definitely a welcome shakeup though to the established formula. Of course, shall you get all the emeralds, you unlock the true ending and you get to square off against the double Eggmans? As Super Sonic and Burning Blaze. It's a tough fight and it's very reminiscent of Sonic Pocket Adventure's final boss, which was also done by DIMPS employees pre-DIMPS. The game has a fantastic soundtrack and it's actually done by Jet Set radio composer Hideki Naganuma. Funky is the best way to describe it, and it definitely brings a style to the game that makes it stand out. Seeing Sonic do a dance during the results screen could only look cool with this soundtrack. The combination of funk and fast-paced boost gameplay will keep you hooked as you travel a variety of levels and stages. Of course there's some familiar themes, but the layouts are engaging as they keep pushing you forward without being unfair in enemy placement. Heck, you start off every stage running unless it's a boss fight, and this adds to the sense that you have to be moving all the time. Each level has their own gimmicks more or less, and they utilize them just right, not being overused or overdone. Sonic Rush continues the strong track record of Sonic on portable systems. It keeps hold of the basic Sonic formula, but it changes enough to make it worth playing. There are a few annoying things in the game, but it's not enough to keep you from jumping in my opinion. It's a bit hard to get your hands on now unless you have a DS, so here's to hoping they could somehow remaster the game. Sonic Rush. It doesn't drop the baton or the funk. Sonic the Hedgehog, commonly known as Sonic 06, has been talked about to death. If you don't know about it, it's known as most likely the worst Sonic game in the series. But is that actually the truth? Sonic 06 tries to reinvent the series like Sonic Adventure did 8 years prior. According to developers, it was an attempt to bring Sonic back to his roots, but it also aimed to be the ultimate Sonic experience. It's a contradiction at best, and a mess at worst. The art direction feels like Sonic meets Final Fantasy, and it works in my opinion. I am not a fan of this Eggman though. Elise doesn't bother me, and she's an interesting dynamic, even though Sonic being attached to her is a bit strange. Mephiles is a fantastic villain. He's totally evil and he manages to piss off all 3 main characters equally. It's quite a feat. I love that they tried to go in an even more serious direction, even if there's a bit of cheese in here. It's Sonic. He's been cool cheesy since the beginning. You have 3 main characters, Sonic, Shadow, and Silver, with characters like Tails or Rouge acting as support. In terms of story, it's actually well done, even if it's a bit convoluted at first glance. There are paradoxes, but if you ignore the minor points, it's really easy to get into, especially Shadow and Silver's story. The major problem is that no matter how good the story is, how good the ideas are, when Sonic and friends are moving this slow, there are tons of glitches that will kill you over and over. It's going to mount frustration like nothing else. Everything is slow here. Load times are painful, movement is like molasses. It's the complete antithesis of a Sonic game. How the amigos are handled should be downright criminal. The pre-rendered cutscenes are beautiful and still hold up, but the in-game cutscenes look terrible. The weight behind the characters looks hilariously bad at times, and it's just awkward without the music. I do like the levels in this game. You'll see the standard Sonic themes here, but the designs are beautiful. At the time, this was a huge upgrade for Sonic, and again, even now it holds up. The level length, however, drives me nuts. When levels are approaching 10 minutes apiece plus, it just loses fun and becomes arduous, especially when you're going for an S rank. It's just don't even bother. So in short, what I don't like is load times, glitchy controls, wasted potential for gems, load times, lack of speed, butchering the side characters, especially Tails, Hedgehog smooches, it's no use, poor snowboarding, levels are too long, stiff controls in Mach speed sections, load times, and load times. Sonic 06 is certainly a grand game in terms of what it tried to achieve. The team tried to go back to the basics, but that's literally impossible as they also tried to make it the ultimate experience. Sonic evolved a lot in the 15 years that he had been around, and there are ideas from almost every Sonic game in here, not just the Adventure series. I think they tried to make something that stands at the pinnacle, and it's a shame that it didn't work out. Like every other fan, I wanted this game to be good, and there are some things here that are promising, but it's just not worth playing unless you're an absolute diehard fan. But there are some redeeming qualities, at least just a few. It was only released on Xbox 360 and PS3, but there is a remake currently underway for PC by a fan named Chaos X. He just put out the Shadow levels, and it is shaping up to be the best way to play this game, so I'd wait a year or two until it's done. Sonic 06, not as bad as it seems, but a lot of wasted potential. Sonic the Hedgehog couldn't get ported to the Wii, so Sonic Team took a different approach. And boy oh boy is it different. The Sonic Storybook series started here, and it takes advantage of the Wii's unique control scheme to give us something very unique. But as we've come to question, does unique equal good? The game has Sonic running through 1001 Arabian Nights, and it's a totally different setting from what we're used to in a Sonic game, and it works very well in my opinion. You may be familiar with the setting, but to me, seeing Sonic run around in this very different environment is a breath of fresh air. You'll notice that it's only Sonic this time around and no one else is playable in the main story. You'll encounter his pals taking on the roles of characters throughout the stories like Alibaba and Sinbad for example. The game is primarily mission-based, and you'll need to clear different missions in each of the worlds in order to get the 7 world rings, which are needed for the true ending. Some people may find these to be tedious, but I enjoyed them quite a bit actually. Given the nature of the game, I think fast-paced missions really benefit the overall style. There are some levels that can take upwards of 10 minutes too, but you can shave off time with skills that you acquire throughout the game. You get these skills by beating said missions, and they make things a lot easier. Sonic starts off painfully slow, but it's a necessity since you need to get used to the controls first. Here Sonic is always going forward, so it's gonna take a little while to get used to. It's the Wii, so they really went all in on the motion controls here. You'll be shaking and baking all over, and while sometimes it can be very frustrating trying to get precise timings down, the game is definitely made to be played over and over again. It seems nearly impossible to get a gold medal at first, but that's why the skills are there, and once you start equipping the really good ones, you'll feel things get much smoother. That said, because it does feel clumsy due to both accuracy and Sonic's forward movement, it's going to cause a lot of frustration at times where you need to platform hop or you want to go fast and you just can't. It wouldn't be a Sonic game without amazing music, and this soundtrack absolutely kills. The only bad thing about this would be that the main theme plays after every time you clear a mission. They could have done a more simple jingle, but it's okay since it's pretty good. There's a lot of vocal tracks here too in the game, which isn't so common actually. No Way Through has to be my favorite. It's just so intense, and the level it's in is one of the hardest in the game, so you're gonna get amped and it's gonna push you through the perilous waves. The levels and setting are just fantastic, ranging from what you might expect in an Aladdin type setting to snowy boneyards, tumultuous waves, and yeah, capping off with a magnificent palace that spins all sorts of ways. I can't forget about party mode either, and all the collectibles too. It's practically Mario Party with Sonic characters, but this is pretty fleshed out for just that, a party mode. Pretty incredible in my opinion. Again, the controls can make things tough, but with some friends it's a lot of fun. You get more games as you collect things along your journey in the main story, and you can get other bonuses as well. There's a lot of replayability in this game, and it's going to keep you entertained for hours on end. Sonic and the Secret Rings is definitely misunderstood given the time period it came out. It's still a lot of fun now, even with its sometimes janky controls, but if you have a Wii or you can emulate it with GameCube controls, I highly recommend it. I would love to see this game re-released too. It might benefit from a traditional control scheme, but given that the Switch Joy-Cons fit Mario Galaxy, why not Sonic too? Make it happen, Sega. Sonic and the Secret Rings. A new start to a great story. Sonic Unleashed is often heralded as the best 3D Sonic game ever made. It was the first big release on multiple platforms since Sonic 2006, and it definitely made a statement. It fully introduced boost gameplay to the mainline series, and it's the formula the games follow today. Being the first of its kind of sorts, how does it hold up now? Sonic Unleashed starts off with probably the most epic cutscene in a Sonic game ever, and it sets up the story and introduces Sonic the Hedgehog. The game itself is a very simple story, as they cut back on a lot of the characters aside from Sonic, Tails, and Amy. Chip is Sonic's buddy in this game, and I think Sonic always does a good job in these situations. Think Secret Rings, for example. It is another world beater bad guy, but it's implemented well, and Eggman does take center stage for most of the game. So in fact, we have two new styles of gameplay here instead of one. When you play as Sonic, you'll be boosting at blistering high speeds through tight and open spaces, traversing both 2D and 3D planes. As the Hedgehog, you'll be running around beating up enemies in order to proceed to the next area of the level. I don't think the Hedgehog levels are the worst thing in the world, but they definitely break up the pace of the game too much for my taste, and you'll be spending upwards of 10 to 40 minutes even, whereas normal daytime stages are over in less than 5 sometimes. My biggest gripe with the game is that you have to spend most of the time as the Hedgehog running around instead of the main Sonic stages, which take a back seat almost. The atmosphere of the game is great though, and the hub world really feels lively with all the people you can go around and talk to. They're not just to connect stages though, and you'll be doing some side missions here as well. The aesthetic in each world is really well done, with each place being based on real world locations. The popping soundtrack does a great job accompanying you on your journey. Sonic game, good music, check. A big part of this game is collecting Sun and Moon medals in order to unlock stages, and this is another problem I have with the game. I think this system should have been simplified, as again, it breaks up the speed of the main game too much. Most of the medals are in the Hedgehog stages, so you'll be spending a lot of time there. The Hedgehog combat isn't anything crazy, and it's just your typical beat 'em up style, whereas the daytime stages are very fun and you have a real sense of speed here. But to be honest, sometimes it's a bit too much speed and you're going to find yourself falling off the stage often. Sonic doesn't feel as tight here and rather slippery if I'm honest. It takes a bit of getting used to for sure. Level memorization is key and you'll need a lot of those quick twitch fibers at a lot of points in the daytime stages. Sonic Unleashed is a really fun game. While I'm either extremely frustrated at times or having an extremely fun time blazing through the stages, it gets the emotions going and it delivers a solid Sonic experience. With a few tweaks to Sonic himself and the Hedgehog stages, this could have been truly a top tier experience. But the jank and annoying bits really keep it from the top echelon of Sonic games for me. If you want to play it now, it was just updated on Xbox Series S and X, so give that a shot. The 60 frames per second rate is amazing. Sonic Unleashed, a world adventure. If Sonic the Hedgehog 4 was released under any other name, it might be considered a decent game. As the next numbered sequel in the Sonic franchise though, it was doomed by the expectations. Developed as an episodic series, Episode 1 features Sonic traversing through 4 stages plus a final boss gauntlet. The stages themselves are nice design-wise, but take obvious cues from other stages in the series. Because of this though, it does feel unoriginal, especially with gimmicks straight from the older games. The 3-act structure is back though, and it works a lot here because each act has its own gimmick and they feel totally different than each other, which I liked a lot. Clear those and you have a showdown with Eggman, who's more or less using alternations of previous boss battles. Final boss is familiar too, but I like the way they went about making it more challenging, so good on them there. On the whole, the game looks very nice. I appreciate the graphical aesthetic, and it might look a little bit too shiny I guess, but I think in a way it works, and it reminds me a lot of the style they went with Link's Awakening. Sonic looks a little too shiny all the time though, I don't know why. Speaking of Sonic, yep, it's modern Sonic. A bit strange considering this takes place right after Sonic 3 and Knuckles. He has a spin dash, but honestly I rarely use it. It seems to slow you down in some places, almost as if they're punishing you for using it. You also have the homing attack from later games, which is used to attack enemies, or it can be helpful for gaining speed in some situations. One of the big problems with this game is the physics and the momentum. Sonic is very hard to control if you're coming from the older games, which control like a dream. Sonic here feels very stiff and his momentum doesn't carry him at all, leading to unfair deaths if you're flying forward and you're not holding right the whole time. He'll literally stop on a dime if you're not touching the controls. There are going to be tons of times where you get caught in loops too. Another problem is the overall lack of speed. Sonic just feels very slow even after hitting boost pads or spin dashing. There are truly very few times where you feel that you'll gotta go fast. I don't have a problem with a more platforming focused game. Don't tease me with all of these set pieces. The Chaos Emeralds return and boy oh boy are these stages hard. I played on Xbox One, but I have no idea how you can beat these on a phone. Even the first stage off the bat is pretty challenging, with most emeralds taking multiple tries. Sure, it's not supposed to be easy, but you'll find yourself playing the levels over and over and over again in order to get one more shot at the special stage. You get Super Sonic, but he doesn't even get an exclusive stage, which makes the whole thing feel like a waste. At least the music's good, but it's always good. Sonic 4 could have been a good game with a little more refinement in physics and gameplay. They should have just started a new series like New Super Mario Bros. But if you're a Sonic fan, I'd say go for it. Sure. It's very cheap on Steam, but still $10 for some reason on Xbox. I don't recommend it at that price. Sonic the Hedgehog 4, a decent game that could have been so much more. Sonic 4 was in no certain terms a disappointment. Even if the game is a bit enjoyable, it doesn't take away from the fact that it lacks so much of what made the predecessors great. Does Sonic 4 Episode 2 pick up the slack, or does it drop the baton? Episode 2 not only acts as a sequel to Episode 1, but Sonic CD as well, bringing back Metal Sonic into the fray as Eggman tries to stop Sonic again. You can play as him in Episode Metal, which has him running through each of the stages from Episode 1, although with more enemies and traps. It's a bit strange as it uses the physics of Episode 2, but the gameplay is based on 1. It's hard to explain, but if you play episode 1, 2, and then Metal, you'll understand. It's a quick playthrough though, so you won't have to worry too much. It serves as exposition for the rest of episode 2. So in episode 2, the physics have been revamped, and while they aren't perfect, they are much better than episode 1. Sonic moves smoother and his running animation isn't so weird. Tails joins the fray, and instead of being a playable character, he acts as your partner on your journey, enabling Sonic to fly to higher places, swim, or do this overpowered rolling attack. It can make things a bit too easy in certain places, but I tend not to overuse it just because the animation takes a little bit too long. It would have been nice to have Tails playable here on his own, but I understand their reasoning, and if Tails was by his lonesome, it would effectively render Sonic useless based on the level design and layouts. That said, I think they can take some hints from this game and design future games around the idea of having Sonic levels and Tails levels, but maybe that's just wishful thinking. The stages here aren't close replicas of past stages for the most part, and instead only take light inspiration. Even stages that are very similar offer unique twists similar to the first game. Each act feels like a completely different experience, even within the same stage. And of course, they do look gorgeous. Special stages are back, and they are so much better than episode 1. I had a lot of fun playing through these, and they're a mix of challenging and rewarding. Even though they might seem a bit simple at first, they do get much harder, and I had to restart the last one dozens of times, no joke. You do have the ability to restart before losing, so it does take a tiny bit of edge off the challenge. Just like episode 1, there's no Supersonic stage here for some reason. It's so annoying. Yeah, I know, there wasn't one in Sonic 1 or 2, but Sonic 3 and Knuckles had one. And it's become a tradition of the franchise. So it's disappointing to say the least. Running around the stages with Supersonic is as fun as ever, so there's that at least. The boss fights here are a lot of fun too. They're unique and pretty challenging. The last boss was something else. It's literally a giant egg heart. Bit unsettling, but it fits the mood. The Metal Sonic race is fun, but honestly, if you become Supersonic, you can just blow through this so easily. Sonic 4 Episode 2 is a bit bittersweet upon completion. Knowing that we'll never get an Episode 3 is a bummer, and while we did get better games after it, I would have liked to have seen how they could have maybe continued the story, or at least given it a proper ending. It's incomplete and that feeling lingers as you watch the credits. Maybe it's for the best, but at any rate, this is a game I would recommend playing if you're a Sonic fan. It's short and a bit sweet, it's a step in the right direction, but it came all too late. Sonic Generations came hot on the heels of Sonic's 20th anniversary back in 2011. For the first time, it combined the modern Sonic gameplay found in Unleashed with classic Sonic's strict 2D gameplay similar to the older games. How exactly does this celebration fare? Starting off with classic Sonic, you run through Green Hill to get the story started. Modern Sonic eventually joins in after having his birthday party ruined by a mysterious villain. It's a neat scene and it has a lot of references which fans of the series can enjoy. Modern Sonic controls similar to how he does in Sonic Unleashed, but much tighter and overall better in my opinion. Whereas Unleashed felt a bit too slippery and quick off the bat, Sonic Generations feels more balanced and easier to get used to, without having to sacrifice the high speed. My same complaints remain though, and honestly I wish Modern Sonic didn't have to switch between 2D and 3D because the 3D parts are awesome and it feels like there isn't enough of them. Classic Sonic plays great and you'll have to be much more precise with him and his controls in order to time tight jumps and make it onto higher platforms. The levels themselves aren't too long though, and it encourages replayability and finding the fastest route in order to get faster times. If you're a hardcore fan, you're gonna notice the physics differences, but I think most people won't really mind too much. This game is truly a celebration of the franchise, spanning the three main eras of Sonic up until that point: Classic, Dreamcast, and Modern. You can unlock all sorts of neat bonuses from concept artwork, character profiles, and tons of music, and remixed tracks. The music remixes for the main stages are awesome, and there are separate mixes for Classic and Modern. The stages featured might be the ones that you'd expect from each game, but a bit of a complaint I have here is how short the game feels. Yes, there's a lot of missions to play through, and it does add a lot of replayability, but I just feel like the game should have had at least 15 stages or something like that. The levels here are just done so well with beautiful landscapes, attention to detail with enemies just to name a few, and it keeps you wanting more to the game's detriment. If you want to play Generations, you're in luck. Microsoft just updated the game on Xbox Series X and S, so it plays at 4K at 60 frames per second. This is the best way to play the game now, so give it a go. It's great for any Sonic fan and even a casual gaming fan too. Even though Sonic has had some stinkers, Generations shows that he can stand the test of time, even now. Sonic Lost World tries to do what so many 3D Sonic titles do and reinvent the series. Coming off of Generations, was a restart really necessary? Or were they actually onto something here? Like most 3D Sonics nowadays, Sonic Lost World has you playing just as Sonic. Tails plays support while Knuckles and Amy are there just to, well, be there. You have Eggman, but also a new cast of villains called the Deadly Six. They're designed sort of like Saturday morning cartoon villains, but I like them. Granted, I played on the Japanese version, which I've heard the personalities are different, so maybe that had something to do with it. The story itself is a bit confusing since it goes for an over-the-top feel and silly in tone at first, but then some scenes try to aim for a darker tone with some character development. I think the colorful worlds and general atmosphere make it hard to be overly serious. Again though, I do appreciate these attempts at character development, which seem to have been missing from recent games. But what's important here is the gameplay. Is it actually any good? Well, I enjoyed it for the most part actually. Controls are similar to the adventure games, but boosting is gone, which may upset a good amount of people. The level design reflects that, and while things are wide open, the game instead implores you to play through the levels multiple times to take different paths. There aren't a lot of levels here though, relatively speaking, and they can be a bit short if you rush through them. Wisps are back too, but they aren't a huge part of the game and they're just there to help you mix things up or make things easier. The parkour system is pretty cool, but it takes a long time to get used to in my opinion. Even in the later levels, I only just started to get the confidence running up walls and bouncing between them. The homing attack is a bit wonky and it doesn't always work as intended, and the spin dash and super peel are slower than I'd hoped for. I think it's because the game goes for a slower pace in general to mixed results. I'm curious to see how a slightly faster Sonic would have fared here. The difficulty is also a bit weird. The game doesn't seem so hard until it is, and then once you figure out how to cheese, say a boss for example, it's pretty easy again. The music is awesome, as to be expected, and they fit the level themes to a T. The areas each have their own themes, but not every level sticks to the overall world theme, which I like a lot as it adds more variety to the game. There are quite a few bonus levels as well, and if you manage to get all the red rings, you even might get a little surprise. So Sonic Lost World is a pretty solid game, and I'm honestly surprised it gets the hate that it does. I will admit, it does feel very low budget for a mainline Sonic title, but like a lot of Sonic games with a few more tweaks here and there, this could have been amazing, and this could have been the direction that the series pushed forward in. However, while it doesn't quite do that, it does give fans an enjoyable and a fresh experience. I played on PC, but it's available on Wii U with Zelda and Yoshi DLC, so I recommend getting that one. I wish they would just re-release it on Switch already, to be honest. Sure, the controls can be annoying at first, and yeah, the level design can be a bit of a pain. I think there's a lot of good stuff here and it deserves another chance. Sonic Lost World. It's not Sonic Extreme, but it's a fan pleaser in its own right. Sonic Forces was announced with Sonic Mania and they couldn't be more different. They both try to capture lightning in a bottle, but only one does that successfully. Take a guess which one. The story of Sonic Forces is quite interesting on paper. Sonic is missing and the world is in turmoil. play as an Avatar character who eventually does team up with Sonic and even Classic Sonic, and you have to stop this new bad guy who's on a tear. The main guy, Infinite, would be better if he wasn't just kind of like this 12-year-old edgelord type character. I know it's a stale criticism, but it's the one that fits the best. Connecting Mania and forces together using a plot device like the Phantom Ruby has potential, but unfortunately it doesn't amount to much. The tone of the game is strangely inconsistent too. I can't tell if they're going for serious or goofy. In terms of gameplay, it's essentially Sonic Generations plus the Avatar, and worse. The Avatar gameplay is okay, and they can take advantage of Wisp powers, which is cool. Modern Sonic has boost gameplay and it's solid, but the levels are almost too short. If you know me, I'm not about long levels at all, but these are done before they get going. Classic Sonic is back too, but... Classic Sonic, I love how he played in Generations, but here he just feels so off. Slow is the word that comes to mind, and I mean slow. He doesn't even need to be here, to be honest, and we can assume that they shoehorned him in for promotion's sake. He just doesn't feel good, and this is extremely noticeable after you've played Sonic Mania. There's a lot you could say about this game in terms of negatives. Positives are it looks nice, and well, that's about it. Most stage designs are recycled ideas, chemical plant during the day, green hill but with sand, stuff like that. The Avatar is whatever to me, and Sonic has all these characters, so why sit them on the sidelines? I wouldn't mind having Silver or Knuckles or Tails playable instead of the Avatar, and speaking of Tails, I've made plenty of mentions of my disdain for this characterization of him in this game. And while the cowering attitude started with Unleashed, it's on full display here and it's painful. This game essentially embodies all of the narrative mistakes with modern Sonic games. I do like the classic Sonic and Tails dynamic though, and there are just so many other potentially cool ideas like having Chaos back for example, and he doesn't even get a good boss fight, or boss fight at all, which is criminal. I know, I could lay into Sonic Forces for more than 5 minutes, but it's kicking a dead horse at this point. It's clear Sega wanted a safe option after Sonic Lost World tried to be different. It's a half a step forward and 10 steps back with this game. If you're gonna go the Generations route, why not try to make a more substantive game than that one? It feels like a cheap cash-in at the end of the day and a huge letdown for a mainline Sonic title. It's on modern platforms so you can give it a shot if you want, but unless you're a diehard Sonic fan, I would just skip this one. Sonic Forces is technically decent, sure, but the worst part is just how disappointing it is. Like other Sonic letdowns, it makes us wish it was so much more. Sonic Colors was originally a Wii exclusive that took the gameplay of Sonic Unleashed, took out the Werehog, and simplified things to great results. Some consider it one of, if not the best, 3D Sonic game. With Sonic Colors Ultimate being recently released, does this game still have a place in the current era of Sonic? The story of Sonic Colors is definitely less heavy than previous games, as Eggman has just created a galactic theme park that Sonic gets to explore. Yeah, of course you can't trust Eggman. This is also the first game to feature Wisps, and they have been featured quite a lot since then, but this is where they got their start. They grant Sonic unique abilities that help him get through the level. Sometimes you'll need them to advance, and other times they'll just make things easier. You can go back to levels and get Wisps that you discovered later in the game, and you can unlock new pathways and just new ways to beat the level in general, which is pretty neat. Sonic himself plays similar to Unleashed and Generations. That means you get your mix of 2D and 3D perspectives. I may argue that this is the best of boost games in terms of moveset. The boosting feels good, the homing attack works most of the time, and he has the double jump which helps with tricky platforming. It all seems to mesh together well, which is why I get confused that Sonic Team feels there's a need to break up the main Sonic stuff with different styles of play, but they always seem to do this, and the Wisps are the least intrusive, so honestly it's okay. Gone is the hub world of Unleashed, which is a bit of a bummer, but depending on my mood honestly, I don't mind the more streamlined approach. You can get to each level quickly and everything is laid out in a neat, concise manner. Levels don't go on for too long, but each area has about 7 or so, which I think is great in terms of balance. It leaves you wanting a bit more, but it doesn't overstay its welcome. The techno-infused soundtrack is wonderful and it goes hand in hand with the theme park trope. There's a lot of variety to be found here too, which might surprise you. The level themes are varied too, again more so than you might expect. The standout level for me might just have to be Planet Wisp. It looks absolutely gorgeous, but then again all the stages look wonderful with plenty of detail. I love the little Eggman quips throughout the game and they're great. I have my problems with the writing in modern Sonic games, but honestly the writing here is probably the least offensive. And the back and forth between Sonic and Tails and the Wisps are pretty good, so there's no real complaints from me. I played Sonic Colors Ultimate for this review, and there are a few things like the lighting being different and all this other stuff, but they've gone and done some updates, so I think it's good for the most part now. It's available on PC, PS4 and 5, Xbox and Nintendo Switch, so I definitely recommend giving it a shot. It might be the quintessential 3D Sonic game for some people, or at least the quintessential Unleashed style Sonic game. I can't really think of too much bad to say about it. Of course I wish I had Super Sonic for the final boss, but I'm not going to knock it down a rank for that. This game is just pure fun. There's no other way to say it. Sonic Colors. It reaches for the stars and lands among them. Headed by the man who brought Sonic re-releases out of the Dark Ages, Christian Whitehead & Co., sanctioned by Sega, brought Sonic himself out of the Dark Ages with Sonic Mania. A true celebration of the series' roots with callbacks and nods here and there, along with all original, fresh ideas. It's truly a match made in heaven. Sonic Mania is a continuation of the 16-bit Sonic games, but the story isn't so important here. It's neat and it helps introduce plenty of callbacks to the older games, but the main focus here is sweet, sweet Sonic platforming, and you'll get your fix and then some. I mentioned callbacks and there are plenty of them, but the game doesn't feel bogged down by them either. You get Green Hill and Chemical Plant again, but the way they're done here is so fresh and it actually makes it a lot of fun to get back into for the upteenth time. The new levels they brought to the table have their own gimmicks that are a lot of fun as well. Longtime Sonic fans will appreciate the silky smooth physics and controls, and you'll feel right at home jumping in. Even if you're new to the series, you won't have any problem zipping through loops, flying through levels, or bouncing around. Sonic isn't alone here, and he's joined by Tails, Knuckles, and even Mighty and Ray. Knuckles still carries the distinction of being able to go through different areas that others can't get to, but Mighty and Ray have their own special abilities that are a lot of fun in their own right. The characters look great, and the game goes for a sort of 32-bit style look. The developers said that they tried to make it look as if it was a game on the Sega Saturn, and I think that was a great stylistic choice. Of course, 2D Sonic and modern 3D looks fantastic too, but there's just something magical about the sprite work done here. Animations are buttery smooth and the characters are filled with expressive actions even though they don't talk. Do I even have to mention the music? T. Lopez did an amazing job with this game. I can't sing enough praises. With plenty of callbacks and great original pieces. The stage levels they brought back have this unbelievable pop to them and they feel more lively than ever. The new levels fit so well with the Sonic universe it feels like you've heard them for the first time 25 years ago. Each act has their own music too, similar to Sonic 3, which adds to the feeling that you're getting deeper and deeper into the levels, rather than just merely going through the levels that look the same but have a different layout. We get tons of enemies and bosses here too, with my favorite being possibly the all-time best boss in a Sonic game ever. Mania mode found in the Plus edition of the game is a nice way to remix the game for those who have run through it multiple times. The team switching mechanic is a lot of fun and it's a feature I'd love to see in future games as well. Sonic Mania is a special game. It was made with lots of love, more so than I may have ever seen from any other game. This was made by people who respect Sonic, who are true fans of Sonic, but know how to make games and more importantly, know how to make good games. This is the definitive 2D Sonic experience, and as much as I love the originals, if you have to play one game, this is it. For the Mania, by the Mania. Sonic Adventure is the first major 3D Sonic title released in Japan in 1998 and worldwide 1999. It's divided opinions and has spurred plenty of historical revision, but at the end of the day, where does it stand?
Thunder, rain and lightning, danger, water rising, climb
Sonic Adventure is notable for many things, but it definitely started the trend of Sonic and too many friends. Joining the blue blur are Tails, Knuckles, Amy, Big the Cat, and E102 Gamma. Each feature different gameplay styles to various levels of success, but even the more controversial inclusions aren't too long, and most of the game is dedicated to high-speed Sonic action. It also has a full-on story-driven narrative, which is something only previously expressed through game manuals. The game also employs a technique that I really like, in that the character you're playing as truly feels like the main star. You're viewing the events through their eyes, so Tails, for example, takes the lead over Sonic when you play as him. It's a neat touch instead of just recycling the same cutscenes. The story takes a dark turn, with Eggman returning of course, but this time he has with him Chaos, the god of destruction, who to this day is one of the most fearsome foes Sonic has come up against. While he hasn't appeared in a main capacity recently, he's definitely left his impression on the series. In this game he doesn't say much, but the way he finally rebels at the end and takes things into his own hands is wonderful, and it's a great twist. The game mostly traverses the same levels, but you'll be greeted with tons of variety, from cityscapes to mountainsides to Eggman bases. They might hit the established Sonic marks, but being that this is the first true fully 3D Sonic Adventure game, it was a huge deal seeing these at the time, and even now they still look great and in my opinion are designed great as well. Each level has a few acts in them too, which actually switches up the scenery a bit. You can't forget about the hub worlds either. They're not huge by today's standards, but they give you this extra bit of atmosphere that I love. You get a few side features too, which are a lot of fun, like the Chow Garden of course, and you can replay levels with a couple of different missions. And to accompany everything is the iconic soundtrack that this game comes with. The vocal themes are some of, if not the best in the entire series. Open Your Heart, Believe in Myself, It Doesn't Matter, Unknown for Me are the heavy hitters, but I enjoy all of the songs. Yes, even Lazy Days in Paradise. The stage themes are great too, and they still hold up. I mean, who doesn't love Emerald Coast? Now, it's not perfect, of course, with some glitches here and there, although not as bad as parroted online. And the non-Sonic portions could turn some people off, but I think they're a good enough balance to break up the gameplay, and they don't last that long in the grand scheme of things. The best way to play Sonic Adventure nowadays would be to go get a Dreamcast, but that's not so easy, so I recommend getting the Steam version and downloading the better SADX mod. Seriously, unless Sega does something, this will be the definitive way to play Sonic Adventure, hands down. Sonic Adventure DX on GameCube and the ports on Xbox and whatever are very accessible, but I don't recommend them. If you have the chance, please get a better version. Sonic Adventure is great. There's no other way to explain it. Sure, it has some slight flaws here and there, and sure my glasses may be tinted completely red, but after replaying so many Sonic titles for this anniversary, only Sonic Adventure 2 can be compared when talking about a Sonic game that controls just right, like this one. Sonic Adventure 2 may have streamlined the gameplay, but there's something about the ambition of Sonic Adventure that to me keeps it above the rest. Sonic Adventure, the perfect transition into 3D.